From humble beginnings to legendary award-winning journalist, Jaime Maussan has been trusted as the voice of the people in Mexico for more than 47 years.
Por primera vez, el público tiene acceso directo a información de un caso ovni que no ha podido ser explicado en términos de la tecnología y el conocimiento terrestres. Este caso fue cuidadosamente estudiado por el equipo de 60 minutos y resulta tan sorprendente como fascinante. Acompañan con el tema de ovnis. Licenciado Arturo Garza Rodríguez, director del programa Alternativa OVNI. Buenos días. Buenos días. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Señor Joel Zapallo Climaco, reportero del aire y escéptico. Buenos días. Gracias también por estar con nosotros. Señor licenciado Jaime Maussan. Buenos días. Gracias.
In the mid-90s, Maussan brought the subject of UFOs to the spotlight.
Then I became the anchor and finally the director of this show that was on the air until 1995. From then on, I became involved with something that I thought was very important, UFOs. I know many people think that they are not important, that they are an illusion or fantasy. But I realized that many people had cameras at the beginning of the 90s, and they were able to record the UFOs. And I thought that I had a chance with these evidences to change the way people think.
Maussan has received the United Nations Global 500 Award, 3 times the National Prize of Journalism in Mexico, the Ondas Award for Journalists in Spain. He was recognized at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Currently, he is presenting Third Millennium News from Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on national television. This news has set the standard for audience records for the channel A+, A+, on several occasions. Tercer Milenio continues to be presented every Sunday on prime time after 22 years of uninterrupted transmission on Mexican TV.
I was not going to be a journalist. I was going to be an administrative worker for my father. He had a company, and he wished that I was able to take care of his company. And I never thought that I wanted to be a journalist because 50 years ago, the journalists in Mexico were not very honest. They wanted money for everything they put on the TV or in a newspaper. My father was a rancher. He had bullfights. He was also empresario for big bull rings. He organized bullfights. Even my aunt was a bullfighter. Then I was going to become one. But at the same time, my father wanted me to take care of his business. But in the last day, when I had to choose my major, a friend of mine came to me and asked me what was going to be my future, what kind of major I was going to choose, business administration, something like that. And he said, oh, that's boring. And I said, why? Because it's just numbers, it's just, in a closed place with no windows, so on. And I said, what are you going to study? He said, journalism. And I said, oh, you're going to be a corrupt man, you are going to take money from people. And he said, no, journalism is to change the world. Journalism is the possibility to create conscience. Journalism is traveling. Journalism is going into the open and reporting what you find. And I like that. And I immediately changed my major, probably the best decision I have done in my life. Then I decided, but my father didn't like the idea. And at the same time, he knew that the journalists in Mexico were corrupt. And I said to my father, I will never, ever, Father, take any money from anyone. I'm going to be a very clean and honest journalist. And I have kept that promise until now. I've been an honest man all my life. And thanks to that, I've been able to develop credibility. When I was a young kid, I saw the destruction of nature, but I didn't know why I didn't like it. I knew that the animals were being killed, that there was business doing with animals, that anybody could take an animal from their habitats and sell it. And when I found journalism, when I found my real passion for life, I really started to try to change my world. And I was able to do it in many ways because I worked in television with the most important journalist of Mexico, Jacobo Zabludovsky, the Walter Cronkite of the US, a man that was very well known everywhere in Mexico. And I became very close to him. In many ways, his right hand, even though I was almost a teenager. When I did my first report, I took my report to Cannes in France. I was just 19. And I received a scholarship from the US, from an American university, University of Ohio. And I was able to finish my career then. When I came back, I started working in journalism to try to protect the environment, to try to protect the woods and the jungles. I was able to find the monarch butterfly in Mexico there. They're hidden places where they hibernate. Fred Urquhart, a Canadian scientist, is the one who found it. I mean, he's the one who really tracked the monarch butterfly. But when he published his article in National Geographic, he never said where it was. My network, Televisa, asked me to go and find the place. It took us 2 years to find it, but we finally did. And I was able to present for the first time to the Mexican people the monarch butterfly, and I was able to get protection for the monarch butterfly. Then, working in 60 Minutes in Mexico as reporter, I was able to get involved with the protection of the turtles. In Mexico, we used to kill the turtles in slaughterhouses. And thanks to my report in 60 Minutes, they were closed. We created laws to protect the turtles, and that's the reason why some of the species of turtles have now recuperated. Then I was able to do many things to speak about the climate change or the global warming back in 1986. I was able to speak about the El Niño current in 87, or the depletion of the ozone layer in 88. We were just two journalists from all around the world who went with NASA to the North Pole to report if there was a hole in the North Pole as the one that had been observed in the South Pole. They found that no, there was not a hole. It was a little bit depleted, but we didn't have the same problem because of the currents are different in both poles. Anyway, I was able to be there with a German journalist, and even the NASA people were amazed that they said a reporter, a journalist from the tropical countries here. Why the Americans, why the Europeans are not here, you know? But I was very much involved in the protection of environment, and when I found that news, the Televisa allowed me to go and participate with NASA in these investigations back in the January 1988. And I was able to do many other things, like, for example, to help the Tarahumaras in the Sierra in Mexico. They were dying of hunger and cold also in 88, 87, and we were able to get thousands of tons of food for them with a report in 60 Minutes in Mexico. Then I became the anchor and finally the director of this show that was on the air until 1995. From then on, I became involved with something that I thought was very important, UFOs. I know many people think that they are not important, that they are an illusion or fantasy, but I realized that many people had cameras at the beginning of the 90s, and they were able to record the UFOs. And I thought that I had a chance with these evidences to change the way people think. Back in 1991, there was a total solar eclipse in Mexico. Probably the longest, or the second longest in the whole century, 6 minutes and 54 seconds. And many people in Mexico recorded the solar eclipse, but some people got UFOs in the middle of the videos. And I thought that was very important.
Horas más tarde de este fenómeno astronómico en nuestro país, el noticiario 24 horas de Jacobo Zabludowski dio a conocer el video de Guillermo Arreguín, donde se ve aparentemente a un platillo volador que en la parte superior era plateado y en la inferior era de color oscuro y que parecía que estaba girando y que se mantuvo por varios minutos sobrevolando la Ciudad de México. Días después aparecieron más filmaciones y con esto el inicio de la oleada ovni más importante de los años 90 y que hasta la fecha se mantiene vigente, pero también sembró entre los mexicanos la cultura de voltear nuevamente hacia el cielo. Desde luego hubo varias voces que se pronunciaron porque se trataba de una mala interpretación o que era el planeta Venus. Sin embargo, esas mismas voces al 2009 no han presentado los análisis o investigaciones pertinentes para cerrar de tajo tal polémica. Lo que sí nos queda claro es que este objeto volador no identificado fue captado desde diversos puntos de la zona centro de la República Mexicana, lo que implica directamente que no se trató de una recreación, ya que en la mayoría de los videos se ve al mismo objeto. Esta grabación le dio la vuelta al mundo y ha sido presentada en diversos medios de comunicación. El eclipse total de sol del 11 de julio marcó una nueva era para el estudio e investigación del fenómeno ovni en nuestro país, ya que ahora la sociedad tenía en sus manos el equipo electrónico necesario para videograbar aquellos objetos extraños que antes solo se limitaba a platicar o a decir yo vi.
I was invited to this program because I had done a report on 60 Minutes about Billy Mayer, and people identified me, but as a matter of fact, I didn't want to go to this television show because I thought that UFOs were not good for journalists, that they were very risky, and I shouldn't get involved with this. But my company, my network, asked me to go to this show, Usted ¿Qué opina? And it was so successful that they asked me to go for a second time, and I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. I said, that's it, no more UFOs, please. But this man insisted, please, this is the last time, let's do another show, because you know how many people saw these, millions and millions and millions of people, and I want to do a new one. And I say, okay, but this is the last one. This is really the last show. And I went there, and I was able to find these videos that were recorded by some people of the eclipse, where they found UFOs. When I presented this very early in the morning, probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it was a revolution. Thousands of people came to the television. At 5 o'clock in the morning, there were more than 5,000 or 10,000 people outside the station because they wanted to get in, because they were so excited with these videos. And after that show, nothing was the same for me in my life. I received many invitations from different universities in Mexico. Then I received invitations from international congresses around the world, and I couldn't get away. I couldn't get away anymore. Then I started, even without even thinking, to get so much involved, because people send me videos and hundreds of videos of UFOs. And then I realized that this was very important. This was a new phenomenon, a phenomenon inside the phenomenon, where people were recording these things with cameras, because everybody had a camera now. Or many people had a camera, VHS, back in 1991. And I thought, with the development of technology, more and more and more people are going to have cameras. And then I said, well, I am very sure in the future, everyone is going to have a camera, and we will be able to have many more videos, many more evidences. And I started to promote people to watch the sky. When they had time to watch the sky and record whatever it was there. I never thought this was going to be successful. But I received one video recorded by one person, and then another, and another, and another. And then dozens and then hundreds. And then I didn't know what to do with so much evidence I had. And 1995 ended 60 Minutes, and I received more and more invitations to present conferences. And I went all around Mexico, and I mean all around Mexico, presenting all the evidences with full theaters. And I'm talking 1,000 people, 2,000 people, everywhere. And I couldn't escape anymore. And then I became the center of this phenomenon in Mexico. In 1997, I started a show, Tercer Milenio, in Televisa, that lasted until 2003, then went out of the air.
Tercer Milenio, periodismo hacia el futuro. Con Jaime Maussan.
Bienvenidos a Tercer Milenio, periodismo hacia el futuro.
That Televisa, the huge network, the national network in Mexico, asked me to come back and present Tercer Milenio in 2004.
Estamos ante una realidad que cambia, que evoluciona, que cada vez está más cerca de nosotros. Mensajes claros que aparecen en los campos de trigo en Inglaterra que no pueden ser considerados obra de algunos bromistas. Nuestra labor ha sido llevar esta información hasta usted, acercarla, estar cada vez más cerca, que nos demos todos cuenta que estamos viviendo tiempos extraordinarios. Estos son los tiempos del encuentro. Ha llegado el momento, el tiempo de aceptar.
And I did it. And I've been on the air since 2004 until now. A very successful show. Now it's running in a different network, also a national network, Azteca, and we have even grown in numbers, in ratings. For around 2 million people watch the show every week, which is probably should be considered the most successful show on UFOs around the world.
UFOs have been the stuff of conspiracy theorists for decades, often mocked for talking about it, but maybe they shouldn't be mocked. Commander David Fravor spent 18 years as a naval aviator, a pilot. In 2004, he had an unforgettable encounter with an aircraft he said was defying the laws of physics. Former Commander Fravor joins us tonight. Thanks a lot for coming on tonight. Tell us what you saw.
Well, we had launched on a routine training mission. When we joined up, we were told that the event was going to be canceled, and that we had real-world tasking, and we were sent out to the west. Now, take in mind that this has taken place about 100 miles southwest of San Diego, between San Diego and Ensenada, Mexico.
Yep.
On a clear, perfect day, blue waters. We get out to the spot where they tell us it's at. We start looking around, and both airplanes see a disturbance in the water and a white 40-foot long tic-tac shaped object just hovering above the water, going forward, back, left, right. There's no rotor wash, there's no wings, nothing. So as we drive around in a clockwise flow, we get to about the 9 o'clock position, and I said, well, I'm going to go down and check it out, and the other jet is going to stay high. So as we go down, when we get to the 12 o'clock position, it starts to mirror us. So it's in a clockwise flow, and it's on the opposite side of the circle from us. And we continue this. It's in a climb. We're in a descent. We're getting a great look at it. This whole thing takes about probably up to 5 minutes from the time we show up. I get over to the 8 o'clock position. It's at about the 2 o'clock position, and I decide I'm going to go and see what it is, and it's about 2,000 feet below me. And I cut across the circle, and as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
En un momento fueron rodeados por estos objetos.
Según la información que escuché en la cabina del jefe de coordinador de operaciones, llegó un momento que él llevaba pues la visualización de la operación en las pantallas y mencionó él que se encontraban en la parte posterior, al lado izquierdo y enfrente de nosotros. Entonces fue en ese momento que sentí un poco de tensión.
What would you estimate the speed?
Oh, well above supersonic. It like a bullet out of a gun, it took off.
So from what you know about aerodynamics, mechanics, physics, should this be possible, what you saw?
Not with the technology that we have today. Not at all.
Even now, even 13 years later, is there anything that you know of capable of this kind of behavior?
No, there's nothing I know of. I mean, when we saw the video with the IR, it has no exhaust, no discernible things of anything form of propulsion. And this thing came from a dead hover over the water, just kind of moving around, to a climb up to about 12,000 feet to rapidly accelerating away in a climb, and in less than 2 seconds it was gone. And you figure you're talking 50 miles of visibility, and you can easily see an object that size easily out to 10 miles, and it just disappeared in seconds.
Pero a pesar de ello, nunca los pudieron ver.
Nunca pudimos identificarlo visualmente, a simple vista nunca.
O sea que solamente a través del FLIR fue posible detectar la presencia de estos objetos.
Sí, únicamente con el sistema FLIR infrarrojo, precisamente.
Es decir, eran invisibles a la vista.
Yo considero que sí, porque ninguno de los tripulantes pudimos observarlo a simple vista.
¿A la distancia en la que se encontraban deberían de haberlo hecho?
La distancia más cerca que tuvimos, que fue de 2 millas, un objeto normal o una aeronave normal, la experiencia nos dice que la podemos identificar. Entonces fue la duda que nos queda en esa operación.
What would be the effects on a human pilot of the G-forces involved in that altitude change?
Well, the altitude wouldn't be bad. It would be the acceleration of the object.
That's right.
Honestly, I wanted to fly it.
Yeah,
but, I bet. Talking to some physicists, they don't think the human body could handle that kind of force with that acceleration.
It doesn't sound like the human body could. So bottom line, what do you think this was?
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
When presumably you expressed that belief to your superiors, what did they say?
Actually, we caught a lot of grief getting back to the boat, and it got passed off as an event that no one could explain. Now, keep in mind, they had been tracking these for 2 weeks prior to us seeing it, and this was the first time that manned airplanes had been airborne when the objects appeared.
This feels like a really big story to me. It's not exactly clear why Vladimir Putin's more interesting than this. I think this seems like a big deal. And Commander, I appreciate your taking the time to talk to us about it.
Back in 2004, the Secretary of Defense in Mexico called me to deliver a video to me. They recorded this video on March the 5th, 2004, close to the Campeche area, but the plane was in the middle of the jungle. They were able to record these lights following the airplane. 11 lights following the airplane. The Mexican scientists went to the television to say that they were, lightning or energy in the air. Ball lightning. 11 ball lightning following and surrounding an airplane. They went to the Secretary of Defense later and said, "Oh, we are sorry. Oh, we were wrong. Sorry." But they never said that publicly. You see? But they know they were wrong because the Secretary of Defense wouldn't deliver a video of UFOs if he knew was something else. Then I can tell you that proves that in Mexico, even the authorities are ready to accept this. The only reason we don't do it is because we don't want to confront the U.S. We don't want to confront the scientists from the U.S. because they would make fun of the Mexican government and they would make jokes about that, and nobody's ready for that.
Me está marcando 206 de velocidad y lleva un rumbo 301. Aquí va, aquí va. Ahí va. Ahí va.
¿Y por qué hasta ahorita lo agarras?
¿Qué es, Juárez? Juárez, ¿qué es? Un punto. Ahí está.
Está exactamente atrás de nosotros.
Es correcto, ahora está a las 7 de nuestra posición con 10.5 millas. Lleva rumbo 283 y 334 de velocidad. Bueno, estoy a punto de perderlo ya en el radar, ya está a punto de...
A las 7, a la misma altura. Hay unas nubes ahí, se debe de ver.
A ver, aquí estamos viendo, hay algunos aspectos importantes a comentar, además del audio de los integrantes del Escuadrón 501. Usted ve estas dos luces muy grandes y abajo de ellas un punto menos luminoso, pero es ahí donde está marcando con una X el máximo calor, es decir, el punto de energía más grande de esas luces es precisamente el punto de abajo.
A ver, ¿qué tenemos? Nada, señor.
A ver, permítame, déjale busco.
¿Y nosotros? Comandante, ¿qué es eso?
¿Qué distancia más o menos lo tenías, Telles?
Oye, a ver, abusados, es como... Ahí van más, siguen más atrás. Son 10, 11 objetos.
Otro aspecto importante es que vemos que los objetos están en movimiento para aquellos que sugerían que estos eran en realidad pozos petroleros, que eran los quemadores de pozos petroleros. Pero podemos ver ahí con toda claridad, como punto de referencia a las nubes y a los objetos en movimiento. Es decir, el avión está de alguna manera, se mantiene más o menos estable y los objetos pues manifiestan este movimiento mientras que las nubes parecen quietas. Otro aspecto muy importante, quiero que usted vea los números que están a la izquierda de su pantalla. Ahí va a haber un 0. En el 0 ve una pequeña flecha. Esa flecha está indicando la inclinación de la cámara FLIR.
Ahí van. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Es decir, que está literalmente en el horizonte, no está enfocada hacia el suelo, está literalmente viendo hacia el horizonte. Y el avión volaba a 3.500 metros de altura.
Y van a una velocidad, pero... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 en la pantalla. Síguelo, no lo cierres.
No me espante.
Si pueden checar por la ventana, tenemos uno que va aproximadamente a la 1. Y los demás pues siguen a las 9. ¿O sea que los tienen rodeado? Pues no sé.
¿A qué distancia?
Aquí nada me indica el del radar. Jóvenes, hoy es su día de suerte. Jóvenes.
No estamos solos.
Sí, no estamos solos, de veras. Qué cosa tan rara, ¿eh? Nos están rodeando. Oye, ¿qué tienes a la 1?
A la 1 lo tengo a 14.8 millas, a la 1 con rumbo 99 y 52 de velocidad.
Es el que él está siguiendo uno, yo estoy siguiendo el otro. Ok, lo tiene el radar, lo tiene el FLIR, lo estamos viendo en el FLIR. Es un objeto luminoso. Lleva rumbo contrario a nosotros, pero no nos deja. Está 2 millas atrás de nosotros.
I received a call from the Secretary of Defense in Mexico. He asked me to come. I had an appointment. I went there. I sit down in an office. Nobody was there. And when I realized I was in the drug traffic, from the military administration, from the military, and I said, Jesus Christ, what happened? Did somebody say that I did something? What I'm doing here? I have to go. This is not good. And then they came and said, Mr. Maussan, can you come with us, please? And I said, Jesus Christ, what is going to happen now? And they took me to a little theater, and they put the video, and they just said, can you explain this, please? And I saw it, and I said, Jesus, are these things following the airplane? Yes, and they surrounded the airplane. Yes. Can I talk to the pilots? No, first tell us what you think. And I said, well, I think they are UFOs. The video had been recorded with a FLIR camera. This camera was, in 2004, just for the military. It was a very specialized camera that could track the infrared and could track the heat in the airplanes. They were using this camera in this airplane because they were looking for narcotics, from drugs from South America, and they were in the area where is the shortest in Mexico from coast to coast, and the airplanes had to go through there, And it was fairly easy to track these drug dealers. And they used this special equipment. And the military saw these lights. They couldn't see the lights with their eyes. They just saw it with the camera. But they knew they had a screen in the airplane and they were looking at the screen, even though they couldn't find it in the air, in the atmosphere. It was in the camera. And they got very nervous, especially when they were surrounded by these lights. The captain turned off the navigation lights because he thought he was going to be confronted by these UFOs. Then some people came and tried to explain that video, saying that they were oil rigs.
Letting off fire.
Exactly, and some other things, some missiles, and so many really crazy things. But the military were there every day for many hours in the same place, and they never saw something like this. And they couldn't explain it. When I told them that these were UFOs, they said, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Maussan. And I left. They didn't tell me anything else. I received a call again a couple of days later, and they say, the Secretary of Defense wants to see you personally in his office. I went there, and then he asked me, what do you think they are? And I said, UFOs. Can I talk to the crew? You will. You will. You are going to be the only one who is going to do that. I'm going to give you the tape. You can do whatever you want. Just remember that you have the honor and the pride of the Armed Forces of Mexico in your hands. Be very careful.
Al hacer un viraje ya para enfilarnos hacia Campeche, el operador de la cámara FLIR detectó un blanco sin forma, únicamente brillaba. Se detectó con la cámara infrarrojo y siempre se le estuvo observando con esta cámara. Más adelante vimos otros blancos hacia el costado izquierdo de la aeronave. Me parece que eran 11 blancos.
En este caso, estos 11 puntos que producían calor y que se ven a través de las imágenes del FLIR, podemos suponer entonces que a pesar de que no se veían, ahí estaban.
Ahí se encontraban y se tenía referencia por las posiciones en que siempre estuvieron a la izquierda de nosotros, volando a la misma altura y aproximadamente a la misma velocidad. Pues se jugó con las ganancias tratando de encontrar una imagen y en todo momento se mantuvieron puntos calientes completamente.
¿Muy calientes?
Muy calientes, o sea, no se encontró una forma irregular, o sea, siempre fueron círculos.
¿Esto es irregular con respecto a aeronaves que usted haya detectado anteriormente?
Sí podría ser irregular porque no se tenía forma, no tenía forma alguna de algún objeto que yo haya visto con anterioridad.
Es decir, este suceso, ¿usted no tiene antecedentes previos a algo similar?
Nunca me había pasado y es algo así que pues no sabría qué decir, qué era. No tendría algún objeto que pudiera relacionar con esto que sucedió.
If somebody asks you who gave you this video, I thought, oh, he's going to say, you don't know who gave you this. You are going to say that the Secretary of Defense gave you this video. And I said, Jesus Christ, my pants almost fell down. I had this evidence, they have given me this evidence, and the Secretary of Defense of Mexico was supporting me, whatever I did with this. I felt a big responsibility. I investigated everything I could with this tape. I had a chance to interview all the crew, the captain, and the cameraman, and everyone that was inside the plane. And all of them told me, this is real. We've never seen anything like this. And then I presented this video in a national television program in Mexico, in the newscast, in the most important newscast. on May the 9th, 2004. Next day, I gave a press conference, and all the international media came to the press conference. I gave them this video, and next night, or that night, it was everywhere around the world, in every single newscast. I don't think there is a sighting of UFOs that has been presented everywhere like this happened in 2004. And then I thought that I had done my job the best I could. I never expected that the explanations that were going to be given to this video, incredible video, were going to be so stupid as they were.
Técnica de videograbación simultánea en espectro normal e infrarrojo. Ese es el nombre oficial de este sistema, un desarrollo de Pedro Ávila, un mexicano que vigila el espacio aéreo. A él se le atribuye la paternidad del mecanismo que se asegura es una herramienta para la investigación del fenómeno ovni a nivel mundial.
Bueno, primero que nada me da mucho orgullo saber que lo que yo estoy presentando es algo real, es algo verdadero.
A Pedro Ávila, director nacional de los Vigilantes del Cielo, quien desde esta pequeña ventana ha logrado videograbar los objetos voladores no identificados más sorprendentes, se le atribuye la paternidad y autoría de este sistema, llamado oficialmente técnica de videograbación simultánea en el espectro normal e infrarrojo.
After I learned that there were UFOs that were invisible to the eye, I proposed that idea on television. And Pedro Ávila, a UFO hunter who cannot walk, he's in a chair, he's looking to his window all day long, built a device to put two cameras, one infrared and one normal spectrum. And he was able, it's the only time that this has ever been done everywhere, where you have a camera recording in the normal spectrum and the other camera in the infrared. And you can see this object in the infrared and you cannot clearly see anything in the normal spectrum, proving that there are UFOs that are not visible to the eyes, to the sight. And I think that was very important. From then on, more and more people, and with the development of technology, even the FLIR technology now available to many people, to almost anyone who wants to have a FLIR camera, now you can have it. And now many people are recording these invisible to UFOs everywhere, and it is just amazing. And we are proving now that what was said 15 years ago with the military in Mexico is happening in many, many places right now.
You've got it from a few different locations where they filmed this. Is that right, Darcy? That's in the documentary itself?
Yeah, actually, the two videos that were used in the documentary that were pretty popular on TV network circulation back in the 90s when this first happened were from the vantage point of Puebla, which is just north of Mexico City. It's another little city, and Mexico City. So, another famous UFO sighting was the Jerusalem Temple Rock UFO that kind of hovered around the dome there. And that was recorded by, I think, 5 different individuals walking around the city.
Are there specific hotspots where these craft are being seen continually?
It comes from time to time. Right now, for example, from the last few years, couple 3 or 4 years, we've been receiving many videos from the northwest of Mexico, around Rosarito, Tijuana, San Diego, in California, even around Los Angeles. Around 5-10 years ago, there were hundreds of videos that were coming from Russia. Probably in Russia is because of the development of new nuclear weapons.
because they happen mostly in around St. Petersburg, in the Crimea Peninsula. The objects are mostly in places where they have some interest.
Now, you said that there's another really massive sighting, something.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you about it, because I just got the second interview, and I'm waiting to do the third interview. On the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning of December 19th, there was a huge, and I mean a huge UFO, a pyramid above the Pentagon. Some people say, oh, it's animation. No. I was able to find, I think I am the only one who has investigated this case. The pyramid was just 300 feet from the ground, okay? Just and in the middle of the Pentagon, above the Pentagon. The images are incredible. 3 different people. One of them that was walking with his dog. Another 2 people who were in a taxi, in a cab. And the third one was taking photographs inside the cemetery in Arlington. The 3 of them with cameras in their hands, because they couldn't do it with a cell phone, were able to get incredible images of this pyramid moving and, rotating above the Pentagon. What is amazing is that nobody in the U.S., not a single media, not the Washington Post, the New York Times, CBS, NBC, etc., etc.
What's that ship? This alien spaceship, I tell you. Yes, I'm here. Sorry, but just because I was talking.
Oh, man. What is this?
This is a fucking alien invasion.
Do you see it? Where is it? Give me the camera. What is this? I mean, what the fuck is that?
Laugh. Have you lost it? Look back! Look back!
I got you, baby. I see it.
Turn right! Turn right! Turn right! You see it? Where is it? Can it be like an ancient god? You know, you stupid little things. Slow down, man. Slow down. What? It's gone. I don't see it. Man, do you see it? I've heard something on the news, something about Russia, military.
No, it's not Russia. It's Pentagon.
I seen it already, man. It was a new stealth bomber. It was announced in the news. You know.
No, man. Turn on the radio. They should tell us something. Turn on the radio.
Has done anything around this incredible case. We found something very similar that happened on December the 9th, 2010, above the Kremlin. In the Red Square in Moscow, exactly the same object This was recorded and presented by RT.
Kremlin has been circled by a UFO. Well, that's if you believe a video which has soared to the top of YouTube's Russian website. The pictures apparently shot from a passing car have become an online sensation. Another YouTube clip filmed during daylight shows a fuzzy grey object on the skyline near Red Square. Skeptics, however, say that if the images were real, the public would have reported sightings to police, who are currently making no comment.
And in different media and newscasts in Russia, it was never presented in the U.S., and it's exactly the same thing. And I believe that sighting has a lot of meaning.
And I now know why it was there that day. That day, Donald Trump signed the memorandum creating the Space Combat Command, the U.S. Space Combat Command, that very same day.
O Amistad fue un experimento realizado por seres de otro mundo para tratar de establecer comunicación con los seres humanos para ayudar a nuestro desarrollo.
It's very difficult to understand this.
Not really so. I believe it is, in the moment you accept the idea that people from other stars may live here, then all comes immediately. It's quite easy to accept it.
De acuerdo a Stefano Breccia, no solo se estableció en la Tierra un grupo al que llamaron W56, sino que hubo otros a los que se les dio el nombre de contrarios o CTR, que tenían otros intereses y valores. Esta situación originó un conflicto entre ambos grupos que incluso provocó la muerte de algunos involucrados.
Sì, se le explican a Bruno Sammachicha y a Giancarlo De Carlo que ellos, este grupo de extraterrestres, se encuentra, está en nuestro planeta porque están muy preocupados por la actitud destructiva que el hombre de la Tierra tiene hacia la naturaleza. Sobre todo le explican estos dos seres que ellos están muy preocupados por la bomba atómica, por la arma nuclear que en caso de guerra podía destruir en pocos minutos toda la humanidad. Entonces explican, repito, que ellos están aquí para cuidar nuestro planeta y posiblemente la humanidad.
De acuerdo a los testigos y al relato de Stefano Breccia, en su libro Contacto en Masa, todos los que participaron en Amicicia fueron conmovidos profundamente por la profunda moralidad y sincero humanismo de estos seres, incapaces de imaginar siquiera hacer un mal a cualquier persona o animal. Sin embargo, les gustaba comer bien, tomar e incluso fumar de vez en cuando. Les gustaba jugar al tenis y tocar instrumentos musicales como el violín. Fue decisión de ellos el mantener esta historia en absoluto secreto. Aunque en algunas ocasiones salían noticias sobre su actividad, las noticias eran vagas e inciertas. De acuerdo a Stefano Breccia, había muchos que sospechaban que algo estaba sucediendo, pero nadie fuera del grupo podía imaginar lo grande y profundo que era el contacto con los seres extraterrestres. Uno de los participantes que prefiere mantenerse anónimo confesó al investigador Nicola Duper en el año 2008 que llegaron a ser 200 seres del grupo que se hacía llamar W56. La W porque significaba viva, y 56 por el año en que se dio el contacto. Un disco no se usa generalmente para viajar, sino como un laboratorio móvil. También es importante saber que una nave está construida, ensamblada y desmontada al final de la tarea para la que fue diseñada. Una nave no es un bloque único, sino que más piezas se mantienen unidas por una fuerza que se puede definir como gravitacional. Para los terrestres no es fácil, a veces, definir el tipo de tecnología utilizada por estos seres. Su tecnología en cada una de sus ramas es tan avanzada que no es concebible para los pobres terrestres que luchan por comprender incluso las cosas más simples, sin tener éxito en la mayoría de las ocasiones. Otra curiosidad, pero muy importante, es que una nave espacial de este tipo, pero también todas las demás, incluso las más grandes, están construidas en hierro, lo que a menudo llamamos ferracio. De hecho, una nave pequeña como la que ves en la foto de arriba pesa alrededor de 15 a 20 toneladas, todo de hierro. El hierro que usa W56 no es diferente de lo que usamos, excepto en una calidad inaccesible para nosotros, por ahora. Su hierro es del tipo polarizado y por lo tanto es capaz de ofrecer cualidades que nuestro hierro amorfo no posee ni puede poseer. Amorfo es un trastorno electrónico a nivel atómico. Un sólido amorfo es un sólido que no tiene forma propia y carece de celosía cristalina, que es una especie de orden de largo alcance de las posiciones de los átomos. Los sólidos en los que hay un orden atómico de largo alcance se llaman sólidos, materiales cristalinos. Algunos materiales como los metales son difíciles de preparar en una condición amorfa. El proceso de solidificación generalmente debe realizarse muy rápidamente, a menos que el material tenga una temperatura de fusión alta, como la cerámica, o un nivel bajo. Cristalización, como suele ocurrir con los polímeros. El hierro de W56 es hierro con una red cristalina. Este tipo de hierro no es un conductor térmico, no es un conductor eléctrico, es no magnético y antirradiación, pero incluso puede hacerse transparente en una parte determinada al aplicar un campo electromagnético a una potencia determinada. Esta peculiaridad, de hecho, explica por qué los platillos voladores nunca tienen superficies transparentes durante los avistamientos. Hay más. La parte hecha transparente puede ser unilateral, que es solo de adentro hacia afuera, o bilateral, que es de afuera hacia adentro y viceversa. Y en ese caso, puedes ver un disco como este. Con respecto a las bases de estos seres, de acuerdo a Stefano Breccia, escribió: se ha dicho ampliamente que los extraterrestres de W56 habían construido una enorme base subterránea, muy profunda en la práctica, situada en el fondo de la masa continental, y muchas más, típicamente pequeñas, a profundidades inferiores. La gran base era un punto de referencia para todas sus actividades europeas, y normalmente era una maquinaria de alojamiento. Los más pequeños fueron utilizados como lugares de vida. Decían que tenían otras bases dentro de nuestro sistema solar, pero que no eran estructuras estables. En realidad, generar o destruir una base era un proceso muy simple para ellos. Pensemos en dos imanes lineales, inicialmente paralelos entre sí. Al rotar uno de ellos alrededor de su centro de gravedad, las líneas de fuerza se volverán más y más entrelazadas a medida que el ángulo entre los imanes aumente. Después de un ángulo crítico, las líneas de fuerza del campo magnético cambiarán abruptamente, disponiéndose en una nueva disposición que les impide retorcerse demasiado. Nuestros amigos, por el contrario, fueron capaces de generar lo que llamaban una cuerda magnética, es decir, una estructura donde las líneas de fuerza eran estrictamente retorcidas alrededor de las otras. Tal cosa tenía la propiedad de abrir la materia, de comprimirla de lado, aplastándola sobre sí misma. Paredes translúcidas resultaban casi cristalinas, con una densidad astronómica, un módulo de elasticidad longitudinal igualmente muy alto y una fuerza increíble. De esta forma, fueron capaces de abrir las cavidades que se convertirían en sus bases, evidentemente sin dañar de ninguna manera las estructuras tectónicas que las rodeaban. Por el contrario, probablemente fortaleciéndolas. Dicha estructura se mantuvo estable hasta que los campos que la generaron estaban activos. Fue suficiente apagar estos campos con un dedo sobre un interruptor para regresar de inmediato al status quo ante. De manera similar, estaban abriendo pasajes para acceder a sus bases cuando los necesitaban, cerrándolos inmediatamente cuando ya no estaban en uso. Solo muy raramente, bases muy pequeñas justo debajo del suelo, se usaron corredores estables. Las grandes bases también eran grandes naves, generalmente en órbita alrededor de nuestro Sol, muy inclinados con respecto al eclíptico. Al principio parece que fueron tres razas diferentes: los pelirrojos, la gente de pelo de cobre, la gente de cabello negro, más o menos similar a nuestros indios de hoy. La tercera raza tenía el pelo blanco verdoso. Por cierto, su piel estaba coloreada similar a su cabello. Estas tres razas han evolucionado juntas. Luego, con el paso del tiempo, comenzaron a reproducirse entre ellas, de modo que nació una nueva raza. Bruno Samasicia, antes de morir, le contó algunos de los mensajes más importantes que había recibido de los seres denominados como W56. Las primeras palabras que dijeron fueron: «Esta tierra fue hecha para bien, pero los hombres que la habitan están transformando todo en malo. No estamos aquí para conquistar. No tenemos nada que vencer. Nuestros intereses surgen del hecho de que su tierra se encuentra dentro de nuestras estrellas». Gaspare de Lama, quien participó en el proyecto Amicicia entre 1960 y 1965, guardó en secreto algunas de las evidencias que demuestran que el caso realmente sucedió, como lo han asegurado los testigos. Gaspare, por su cercanía con Bruno Samasicia, el líder del grupo de los humanos en Italia, recibió fotografías y realizó la mayoría de los filmes que aún existen.
Io da giovane avevo 41 anni circa, 40, questo Bruno.
Samasicia?
Samasicia, nel villino, nel giardino del villino verde di Montesilvano. Non tradire questi ricordi. Non tradire questi ricordi.
Gaspare accedió a mostrar algunas de las fotografías y películas de 8 milímetros que aún guarda en su poder.
Ha fatto con vedi che non c'è più quel coso nero? E non c'è più. Quel coso nero noi lo chiamavamo il pennacchietto. Questo qui è un piccolo modello, 4 metri circa. Non c'è l'uomo sopra, è guidato, telecomandato. Serve un piccolo ricognitore che noi chiamavamo il topolino. Dopo averlo filmato, come in questi film, abbiamo fatto anche le foto e questo pennacchietto era una specie, adesso parlo in maniera impropria, non scientifica, era una specie di energia che si condensa, vedi che è da una parte pencola e vedi che c'è questa linea nera che è irregolare, perché era una specie di energia, metti una polvere, ma non era una polvere, che si volava lungo la cupola, si adagiava qui in maniera irregolare e poi si sperdeva sui fianchi e si disperdeva. Non so che energia fosse, era un condensato di energia, ecco. Si appoggiava qui, poi si sperdeva. Qui non c'era più, ma è lo stesso disco che ci ha seguito, ecco, quando eravamo nei pressi di Milano è apparso ancora una volta. Qui invece era in aperta campagna dove avevamo un appuntamento con questo disco per filmarlo proprio così, un regalo. L'hanno fatto per me, tu vedrai la nostra tecnologia.
Vivían la mayor parte de su tiempo en sus enormes bases subterráneas, pero algunos de ellos vivían entre nosotros, dentro de nuestra sociedad, desempeñando todo tipo de papeles en él. Uno era investigador universitario. Otro, el director gerente de una empresa textil bastante importante en el centro de Italia. Un tercero era gerente senior en una de las compañías más grandes de telecomunicaciones alemanas, TLC, y así sucesivamente. Pero la diferencia más importante en todas las historias de contacto que he leído es el papel que los terrícolas jugamos a los ojos de nuestras contrapartes desde tan lejos. Expresaron varias veces que nosotros, los habitantes pobres de este planeta angustiado, disfrutamos de habilidades psíquicas casi únicas, mientras que no nos damos cuenta de eso. Dijeron que esta peculiaridad era una de las principales razones por las que vinieron aquí. A menudo fue incluso divertido para nosotros observar a estas personas con una tecnología tan fantástica a su lado, rogando nuestra ayuda en operaciones particulares contra sus enemigos. Y cuando la historia llegó a un final abrupto, fue por una falla de nuestra parte, cuando la mayoría de los terrícolas se asustaron o simplemente fueron engañados por el enemigo y dejaron de apoyar a nuestros amigos. Este desarrollo fue suficiente para ponerlos en peligro, reduciendo su superioridad contra sus enemigos, por lo que tuvieron que detener sus operaciones aquí y retirarse a sus hogares, prometiendo, sin embargo, regresar en el futuro. De manera sorpresiva, Emilio se presentó a un evento donde Pier Giorgio Caria y Jaime Maussan presentarían evidencias de sus investigaciones y accedió después de haberse negado en repetidas ocasiones a hablar del caso Amicizia.
Il caso Amicizia come base è vero, cioè ci sono state queste persone venute da un altro mondo e non è vero che sono andate via nel 78, un gruppetto è rimasto ancora lì, no? E come base il gruppo Amicizia è vero, dopo purtroppo sono cadute delle cose non tanto belle dal lato umano, perché sai l'uomo dopo alla fine fin quando si è spirituali eccetera, ma dopo arriva il materialismo e addio. Infatti Gaspare giustamente aveva abbandonato il gruppo. Io ho continuato perché mi sentivo di continuare, ecco. Però il caso Amicizia è vero, perché sono capitate delle cose straordinarie.
Sei riuscito ad apprendere la forma della scrittura degli amici?
Sì, 3 calligrafie.
Sì, puoi spiegare?
Sono 3 calligrafie, uno del popolo azzurro, uno dei giganti e l'altro degli uomini piccoli. Sono l'alfabeto momento che per noi, per comprendere noi, perché pare con un cinese dice questo qua, però e questo mi è arrivato, perché la natura mi ha dato una sensibilità fuori dal comune.
E quindi tu hai per ispirazione...
Bravo. Infatti Bruno si appoggiava molto a me per un fatto che qualche Gaspare ci ha visto parlare nella loro lingua, lo sai, eh?
A Bruno?
A me con Bruno quando parlavo. Però dopo ho finito, non capivo più.
Ma Bruno mi ha detto che qualche cosina nel limite delle leggi loro, delle leggi della loro federazione, chiamiamole leggi cosmiche, qualche cosina hanno fatto, se no sarebbe ancora peggio, però non possono mutare l'evento della storia. Se noi vogliamo una cosa, quella cosa succederà, possono ritardare, però penso che, non so, è una mia sensazione. Non so come faranno, forse qualche cosina ci sarà, non so. Io spero, mi è stato detto in un loro intervento, non so in quale forma, molto blanda, che non ci, nel limite che noi lo si possa accettare, però occorre probabilmente che ci sia una massa critica del pianeta che desidera questo, come quando arriva un maestro, perché c'è una parte della popolazione che desidera il maestro, allora il maestro l'esistenza te lo dà, Dio, chiamiamolo come vogliamo, e io penso che ho sentito dire che se ci sarà una massa critica sufficiente qualche cosa faranno, sempre nel limite, non lederanno la nostra libertà, ecco. Come un bambino piccolo, non toccare la presa da luce elettrica, se no ti fulmini, non toccarla. Però la seconda volta se la tocca, peggio per lui.
Recuerdo que en el día que con Jaime Maussan junto a Giuseppe Garofalo, que es un mio colaborador muy importante, es un analista en computadora muy bravo, muy capaz, con lo cual hemos analizado las fotografías y los videos de Amicizia, y estábamos yendo con Jaime y Garofalo a la ciudad donde se encuentra la Casa de la Virgen, o sea, la ciudad de Loreto, que fue trasladada ya, dice la historia, por Los Ángeles, y mientras estábamos en la carretera, en la autopista, Giuseppe Garofalo se da cuenta que estábamos seguidos por un platillo y lamentablemente ha podido sacar el video en el momento que el platillo ya era muy lejos, pero analizando este video, hemos podido ver que el objeto es muy parecido a los objetos de amicizia. Un saludo, no lo sabemos, pero es otro hecho interesante que podemos agregar a esta historia increíble. Quizás va a salir otro, hasta hoy no. Y por lo menos de recién, como ya he dicho, otro protagonista que es Emilio Braghiroli ha aceptado de salir al público y nos ha dado una entrevista. Él también es muy anciano, pero quizás en el futuro va a salir otro.
They know, the security agencies know, that sooner or later, one of these cases is going to go out. It's going to be in YouTube, and it's going to be recorded by different people at the same time. Just consider for 1 second if the Zimbabwe incident in September 1994, if this happens now, with all the kids with a cell phone, with a camera, can you imagine 5, 10 kids recording the same extraterrestrials, presenting them the same day in the afternoon on YouTube all around the world? How could you discredit this? The agencies are ready to give up. You have to remember John Podesta talking when he said, he wrote in a tweet, "The only thing that I regret working for Obama is that I couldn't open the ET phenomenon." And he became the manager, the chief of the campaign of Hillary Clinton. And she said, "I'm going to open this." And I was rooting for her because I knew she was going to do it. I know the Pentagon, I know the military were ready because they cannot keep this secret so much longer. One of these days, it's going to come up. It's going to, it's going to blow. The Chinese now have an incredible radio telescope for 1 kilometer in diameter, something like that, and they are looking for signals, and they are looking, and everyone is looking for life. The Europeans, the Indians, everyone. This is changing so fast. You are going to have the big telescopes like ALMA in Chile, or other the telescopes that are going to look to the infrastructure on different planets. They're going to look for cities. They're going to look for satellites around the planets. The James Webb telescope that is going to be on orbit on 2020 or 21 is going to look for infrastructure. There is not much time for the agencies. They have to open. The first try was on December 16th, 2017, when the New York Times presented this information. And Luis Elizondo from the Pentagon came up and said, "Yeah, I'm resigning there because I want this to be open." And they presented 3 incredible videos. And nobody has been able to discredit that. Nobody. Then what happens? We have the evidence right there. It's the first time they tried something. And we know there are people investigating materials, no? And I think very soon we will have a big surprise coming from the agencies. They better do, because one of these days, there is going to be a case that they won't be able to control, as they did in the past.
Otro material, otras personas. Yo sé que existen y que algunos de ellos son vivos, pero es una esperanza más que una certeza.